Welcome to Beyond Hormones, the Business of Wellness, the podcast for hormone and functional medicine providers who want a thriving, predictably profitable practice and maybe a little less stress along the way. Hi, I'm your host, Jody Lane, and I've worked with lots of clinics in marketing, sales, and business development, and I have seen what works and what doesn't. And here's what I believe. Hormone and wellness care should be available to everyone who wants it. And while providers know the medicine, many struggle with the business side of their cash practice. And that's where I come in. See, this podcast is here to share real strategies, real stories, things you can implement in your practice right away. So I am so glad you're here. Come on, let's go. I spent 15 years in marketing and then I quit on purpose. I was done. And then I took a woman out to dinner in Salt Lake City, and she told me the one thing this industry was missing was a marketing agency built for hormone clinics, and I still said no. So today in this episode, I'm going to explain why I changed my mind, and I'm going to go into a little bit more about what we built instead. Hey guys, it's Jody. We have made it to the sixth and final episode of our series on the biggest marketing and sales gaps in the hormone and functional medicine space. And I gotta tell you that this has been so much fun for me. So today I wanna start just a little bit differently. I want to start with a story because I think it's going to explain everything that comes after it, which is really the part that I want to get to, the teaching part. See, I've been in marketing pretty much my whole career, which is funny because I didn't go to school for marketing. I actually went to school for communications. I wanted to be in politics. And somehow I landed a job right out of Stetson University as a marketer for politicians, which is a very interesting way to start a career, let me tell you. But I just fell into it and it just clicked. It fit the way my brain works. It fit my personality. See, I'm very relationship driven. I love people. I love solving problems. I love serving people and giving them what they need. And when you strip marketing down to what it actually is, that's the job. You're solving people's problems. You're building relationships. You're figuring out what somebody needs, and then you're handing it to them. And so it just snapped for me in my 20s. And then I built a career out of it, and I loved it. But here's the thing about anything you love. It evolves. And in the last 10 years of me doing it, marketing became a grind. It got hard. It got technical. I mean, like really technical, depending upon the platform. It also got risky. It required real money from businesses to be successful. And the ones I like to work with, small to medium-sized companies, they just don't have that kind of money or even that kind of time. It stopped being a project and started becoming a process. And honestly, this might be more than you wanted to know 8 minutes into a podcast, but I'm going to tell you anyway. See, I got out of the agency world because I was frustrated with business owners, which is ironic because small business owners are my people. I am a small business owner. But here's what kept happening. A business owner would come to me with an expectation of what I could do for them. And that expectation did not match what they were willing to spend, not even close. And I wasn't the most expensive agency in town by far. I promise you I was not. But it takes real money to make money. And it got worse and worse as marketing got more complicated. And yet I had client after client who believed that if they just spent $1,000 a month, they should see 10 times back in return. And I get it. I really do, because $1,000 to a small company is the equivalent of $15,000 to a large company. Because it's not the dollar amount. It's the true percentage of revenue walking out the door. And when that much of your revenue is on the line, there is this desperate hope attached to it that it has to work. I have felt that in my own marketing since I started AMP. But I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't keep taking people's money, knowing full well I wasn't going to deliver the return they had in their head. Even when we had an honest conversation up front, the expectation on their part was still there. So I just decided to get out. And then towards the end, I found this client, a hormone clinic owner in Orlando. You know, I've talked about it before. And that clinic became my exit ramp out of marketing and into what I'm actually passionate about now, which is business development. Now it's 2020, 3 years into my time at that clinic. I'm working with the executive director of an organization called WorldLink Medical, a woman I truly respect. And she invites me to speak at one of their conferences, and it goes well. I mean, like really well. I got great feedback, and it planted this idea in my head that maybe I could become a consultant to hormone clinic owners. So I pulled a couple of my teammates together, and we had something. But I wanted her blessing before I did it. So I flew back to Salt Lake City. I took her out to dinner. I laid out the whole idea, and she actually loved it. She thought it was great. But then she said, Jody, what's really missing in this industry is a good marketing agency built specifically for hormone clinics, and I want you to build it. And I sat with that, and I thought about it, and I said, no. I said no because I had just spent 15 years in that world, and I was done. Instead, because she wasn't wrong and clinics really did need marketing support, I did the next best thing. I built a handful of marketing campaigns and I sold them to about a dozen clinics, and that was about as far as I was willing to go. Now, fast forward a couple of years. We rebranded that first company. It was originally called the Greenleaf Group, and then we became Accelerated Medical Practices. At the end of 2024, I exited the clinic. I went all in on AMP. And still not going to do marketing. And then, yes, we did it. We built the practice automation system. And I now spend more than half my time on this podcast, on social media, on YouTube, talking about marketing. So what changed? She was right. That executive director was 100% right. And it took me 3 to 4 years of hearing the same thing over and over to admit it. And here's how I heard it. See, our biggest service here at AMP is our growth plan workshop. We sit down with a clinic owner, we teach a little bit of business concepts, we ask a ton of questions, and once we genuinely understand where the clinic owner is trying to go, we build them a plan. We build their pricing, their membership packages, their income projections, their financial analysis, a proposed profit and loss statement, and a custom action plan to actually get there. So I'm doing these workshops with clinic owners after clinic owners. And do you know what comes up in almost every single session? How they spent money on marketing that did nothing. Agencies, campaigns, websites, ad management, gone. And there were 2 patterns that I could not stop seeing. The first one was they were promised results they could not deliver. Remember what I told you? I left marketing because I was exhausted by the gap between what I knew I could produce and what my clients expected. That gap ate me alive. Well, those agencies did not give a damn about that gap. They had promised the outcome anyway because, hey, it was possible that they were going to have that result. Now, I don't know about you, but when I buy something and the results live on a range, I don't want you selling me the top of the range. I want you to be real with me. And they were not being real. And the second one was they sold the service but assumed the result. Here's what I mean about that. Somebody sells you a beautiful website and tells you it's going to generate 10,000 unique visits a month. But without ongoing SEO work on the back end, it's actually not going to happen. That was never going to be true. Or they sell you ads that are going to generate tons of leads. And maybe the ads do generate tons of leads, but your organic social is non-existent. So nobody trusts you when they land on your social media page. And so your leads don't actually convert. Or maybe you get leads, but you have no follow-up or nurturing, which isn't their fault, the ad manager's fault, but no one told you that you needed that in order for those leads to become patients. So the service got delivered, the results just didn't show up. And technically, nobody lied. And I heard this over and over. And my heart just broke because these practitioners didn't know the right questions to ask. They listened to a salesperson, and marketing people are so good at sales. And they assumed what they were hearing was the whole truth. And how would they know otherwise? It wasn't their fault. It happens to all of us. Let me tell you this way. My car broke down. I took it to the mechanic. And the mechanic tells me, okay, you have this problem. But while I was down there, I also noticed that you have this problem, this problem, and this problem. And if you don't handle this by like tomorrow, you could end up broken down on I-4 out of nowhere because this car is days away from failing. Now, how in the world do I know if he's telling me the truth? I don't. I don't know how cars work. I mean, maybe I should, but I don't. What I actually needed was someone that I trust who does understand cars to come to that appointment with me, to listen, to tell me afterwards whether what was real and what was an upsell. That was the gap. That's the missing piece for hormone clinic owners. So you may be talking to genuinely good agencies, and they're not necessarily lying to you, but they're not explaining the entire truth either. And so you spend a ton of money on things that just don't work. And you walk away thinking that marketing just doesn't work for clinics like yours. And that I just can't have. And on top of the money, there's this other thing. It's a real lack of understanding about how sales and marketing actually function these days. See, there was a time years and years ago when someone would call your office, you explain what you did, they made an appointment, and that was that. But that time is gone. This industry has gotten saturated. There are now 1,000 places for a patient to get information, not always good information, but they still find information, and sometimes it's contradictory. So they're confused. They call your office and trust is at an all-time low. They don't know who's telling the truth. Pricing across wellness medicine is all over the map for legitimate reasons because there are real variations in how the medicine gets delivered, but the patient doesn't know that. So for them, it just seems sketchy. So somebody finds you no longer means someone is coming to see you. And eventually, I just couldn't sit back and watch it happening. Not when my team and I had the knowledge and the ability to fix it. And that is how the practice automation system that I talk about so much was born. For all you longtime listeners, you know how much I love working in the hormone clinic space. And I want every one of you to have the best clinic possible. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to pause this podcast for just one quick second and share quickly about a product of ours that I think is going to make a real difference for you. And it's called Practice Automation System. Now, first, I want to share something that I had to learn the hard way. If you're struggling to get patients, your marketing probably isn't the problem. It's what happens between when someone raises their hand interested and actually gets someone on the phone. That's where the problem lies. That's where most clinics are losing money and they don't even know it. Does this sound familiar? A lead fills out your form. Your front desk is busy taking care of patients, so they get back to them in a few hours or maybe the next day. They call the lead once. They don't pick up, so they leave a voicemail and they move on. The person never calls back, the lead goes cold, and your ad spend just vanishes into thin air. Practice Automation System is the solution that we built to solve this exact issue. Within 5 minutes of someone filling out a form, the lead gets a text. They get nurtured by email for as long as it takes, and your team gets assigned follow-up tasks based on how much time has gone by so that they never let anything fall through the cracks. We have used this foundation of this system inside my own clinic, where we grew to over 1,000 patients, 4 providers and 23 staff members in just 7 years. So you know what? We know this works because we've used it ourselves and we have helped clinics all over the country roll it out too. To find out if Practice Automation System is the right fit for your clinic, just go to acceleratedmedicalpractices.com/automation. That's acceleratedmedicalpractices.com/automation. All right, let's get back to the show. Now, if you let me, I want to break down the system into 3 things that I think actually matter to you. And the first one is software. Now, I want you to imagine running your clinic without an EMR. Now, I know there's a small percentage of you that are still on paper charts. And if that's you, you're probably not going to get this because you're still living in a fully manual era, writing everything down, and you're actually missing out entirely on the efficiency and the support you could be giving your patients from using a well-built EMR. That's not the point right now. But if you want to talk about that separately, just reach out. Let's have a conversation. But for the other 95% of you that are using an EMR, I want you to imagine that it's gone. Now, the clinic that I worked at, we used Cerbo, C-E-R-B-O, and I love Cerbo. If you are a hormone or functional medicine clinic and you don't like your EMR, go look them up. But I remember one day our internet went out. Now, internet going down in any business is annoying and challenging. But the internet going down in a medical office is the kiss of death. The providers were flying blind. They couldn't remember patient stories or their histories. They didn't know their dosing. They had no lab values. Everything they needed lived in that system. Now, thank goodness, in 7.5 years, that happened exactly one time. So paper chart people, don't sit there feeling all proud because you're laughing, thinking to yourself, this is never going to happen to you. It happened one time in 7.5 years, and it wasn't even for a full day. But it does show you something. We are so completely accustomed to letting software make us better that we don't even see it anymore. And here's my point. The only difference between the people listening right now who've never used a CRM and think, I spent my whole career without a sales and marketing system. What in the world do I need one of those for? The only difference is that you've never used one. Because the paper chart folks are saying the exact same thing right now as I'm talking about EMRs. And every one of you with an EMR knows your practice would not be as busy or as efficient or as successful without it. So one of my most important jobs as a member of the AMP team is to teach in very simple terms what a CRM does for a practice, how it helps you grow, how it helps keep you organized so that your team works fast and efficient and every patient and every prospect gets white glove treatment. Now, my goal is that after a few months of using your CMR, if the internet went down, you would flip out. Let me put it in money terms. Even if you invest in marketing, you may not have broken it down to this level. See, there's a term called ROAS, return on ad spend. Now, how in the world are you supposed to know your return on ad spend if you don't know which leads become patients? To know, you have to track. To track, you need software. When you track, you know if you're making money or you're wasting it. Here's another example. It's another acronym, CPL, cost per lead. Your total spend divided by the number of leads it produced. In the hormone space, that typically runs somewhere between $7 and $50, depending on clinic size, how consistently you've been promoting, how well the algorithm understands you, and how the ad is built. But let's just take an average. So let's say your cost per lead is $20. Now, if you handed me a $20 bill and I took them and I hid them and you could not find them again, you'd be furious, right? That's $2,000 you just gave me and I just made it disappear out in the ether. That is exactly what happens when you pay $20 a lead and don't track them. Let me explain. Here's what a typical office without a CRM does. A lead comes in, usually it goes to an email inbox, somebody's assigned to follow up, or maybe it drops into like a MailChimp, because a lot of clinics start their marketing life with an email tool like MailChimp or Constant Contact, one of the more basic ones. The lead gets 2 or 3 emails. If it doesn't convert, it falls into your general list and you're done. Or maybe you're more manual than that, but a little more sophisticated. Lead hits an inbox, somebody on your team copies it into a Google sheet, and now you've got a leads list. Awesome. But you've lost track of which campaign it came from. And after the first couple of touches, it's just gone. After a few years of marketing, those $20 bills, they add up. Say you run marketing for a year and you generate 1,000 leads. Every one of them cost you $20, and you can't go back to any of them. No history. You don't know where they came from. You don't know what they clicked on. You have no record of a single conversation. That's $20,000 out the door. And most people just assume that the leads were bad. The CRM solves this problem. And even more, here's the other version of that same problem. Let's say you invest in a patient liaison. And you all know how I push so hard for that kind of a person, the person who has all the money conversations, but there's no CRM. So she works off of a Google Sheet or Post-it notes or a spiral notebook, which is of course an extremely popular system. I've seen it done in many clinics. Now let's say that she is amazing, super organized, follows up with everybody, remembers everybody, and then she leaves. Where's the information? Where's the history? Where's the detail? It's gone. Even before she leaves, imagine she has to come in every morning and dig through spiral notebooks to figure out who she's calling today. That's a lot of extra work for nothing. Because with a CRM, you've got a pipeline where every lead and every prospective patient sits in a stage based on where they are in the buying cycle. She walks in, sits down, and boom, she knows exactly who she's calling that day, and her tasks are waiting for her. She clicks a contact record, which honestly functions a lot like a patient chart in an EMR. And she can see what that person clicked on, what they downloaded, what emails they opened, and hopefully the notes from every prior conversation. It's so organized, it's efficient, and it takes each one of those $20 bills and turns it into something. Now, you know I can't promise you that a CRM converts every lead you'll ever get. Of course I can't do that. What I can promise is that the percentage of leads that eventually convert will be drastically higher than if you leave it to chance. Now, the second reason we built the practice automation system is because follow-up is more important than attraction. I'm going to say that again because it is the whole ballgame. In marketing, follow-up is more important than attraction. There are thousands of agencies out there doing SEO, social media, ad management, events, lead magnets, and you know what? You need that. Lead attraction matters. I'm not dismissing it. But when you do all of it with no follow-up behind it, you are wasting your money. Let me put this in medical terms. Imagine you hand every prospective patient a lab requisition and send them off to get their labs, and then leave it entirely up to them to schedule the review. What happens? Some of them will, some of them won't. They need to be guided by you. You know that. You would never do that. You would never send out a requisition, get the results back, do nothing with them, and just wait around for the patient to make the next move. But when you're not intentional about follow-up with your leads, that's exactly what you are doing. Somebody raised their hand. Somebody said in some fashion, I'm interested in what you have and I want to know more. And without real follow-up, you're just leaving it entirely up to them to take the next step. And in a world this loud, this many messages, this much noise, everybody moving this fast, if they remember to call you back on their own, that's not a strategy. That is a miracle. And when my team and I looked around at this, we didn't actually intend to build marketing. We thought we'd find marketing partners, right? But everybody we found knew how to do the attraction stuff. Nobody was doing the follow-up. Some for leads, none for existing patients, and none for sales conversions either. Plus, certainly nobody was doing it who had experience working inside of a clinic, who understands how a clinic actually operates, who knew the roles, who could talk about this in language that makes sense to a practitioner as well as the patient, who understood the science, who are patients themselves. So we just decided to fill the gap, which again is why we built the practice automation system. We didn't just hand you 20 campaigns and walk away. No, when you onboard with us, we set up your CRM and load it with 20 campaigns, split across lead magnets and sales conversions and patient retention. And then we committed to building a brand new campaign every single month because 20 isn't enough. Different patients come through your door and you have different modalities. And I know a lot of you are doing hormones and weight loss and peptides and supplements. So we picked the most popular services that a clinic like yours might do, and we built the communication around them. And we know that timing matters. We know it has to be very well thought through so that when somebody enters one automation, they get pulled out of the others so that you don't have people getting tons and tons of emails all at the same time. So they're not being annoyed by you. Those nuances had to be taken into consideration. So I went back on my original no, and we decided to do this for 3 main reasons. Our background is marketing. We worked inside a clinic, and we built every bit of this from scratch for that clinic first. We already knew how, and all we had to do was rebuild it. And there's a third reason, and for me, this might be the most important one, and it has nothing to do with marketing. It's community. It matters to me that we don't just provide software and a service. No, I want to create community, and that community mindset falls in 2 camps. The first half is community with us. You know the joke. The fastest way to get rid of a device salesperson is to buy the device, right? In my world, the fastest way to get rid of a software company is to buy their software, because typically once you've paid, there's a jillion videos you can go watch and teach yourself. And if you actually want to ask a question, You've got email support or chat support, or pay more for the privilege of calling into a call center. We didn't want that. We wanted to build the system as intuitively as possible. And yes, we did make a bunch of videos because plenty of people like to figure things out on their own, or they're working at really crazy odd hours when I happen to be sleeping. But we also wanted to be available. So we built the Accelerated Medical Practices community. You can ask us anything, anytime. And we run office hours twice a month where you can hop on with questions about the software, about the mechanics, about marketing, about sales, whatever you want. And if you don't have any questions, you can come anyway. Listen to what everybody else is asking, because that's what a community does with each other. And the second half is community with each other. See, I want practitioners to stop feeling alone in this. So many of you go to conferences and you feel incredible while you're there, right? This is the least competitive industry I have ever worked in. Everybody is out to help everybody else. You've got a question about pricing or when to run labs, people are genuinely happy to share. But what happens when you go home? When that community, where is that community around your sales and your marketing? It isn't there. So we built it. You can talk to other practitioners using this software and get their take alongside ours. Because look, Patrick and I have worked inside of a clinic. We've worked with 100 or so clinics across a bunch of different services. It doesn't mean we have the answer to every single question, and it would be ridiculous to claim if we did. Every clinic is different. Every practitioner is different. Every community is different. Every market is different. And sometimes the best answer to a problem doesn't come from us at all. It comes out of a conversation between two practitioners. All right, let's come to the end here. I hope that this 6-part series gave you some insight into a few things that maybe aren't working in your clinic as well as they could be. And I know it's a pain to think about this stuff. I know that you would probably rather just shut it all off and focus on your patients and not think for a second ever again about leads or follow-up or retention or marketing or sales or any of that stuff. I know. Because very few business owners who went into business for the love of what they do also love the business side. So here's my invitation. I love the business side, and I have real admiration and respect for what you do as clinicians. I understand it. I've been around it for years. You don't have to explain it to me because I already get it. But I truly do love the business side. So if you want to hand this piece off to someone else, just come talk to me. That's what we're here for. We price it so that it's affordable. No matter what price point you sell hormone services at, you need probably about 4 patients a year to cover the cost of our system. And if our system doesn't produce 4 new patients for you, or a combination of 4 retained and 4 new, then we've done something incredibly wrong. And I want to hear about it. Come tell me. And if you are a do-it-yourselfer or a DIYer, someone who likes to learn and go build, that is awesome. Keep listening to my show, and I promise to share everything I know, and you can go do it yourself truly. All right, guys, thank you so much for your time and attention. If you have missed any of this 6-part series, do me a favor, go back and grab them. They're short. We kept it under 25, 30, okay, maybe 35 minutes for some of them. So you can get through them usually on an average walk or your drive to the office. I could literally talk about this stuff forever because I love what I do. And I also appreciate you because at the end of the day, we're all after the same thing: to make hormone and functional medicine care available to as many people who want it, and to be treated by intelligent, skilled, talented practitioners. But you can't do that without a functioning business. That's our job. Helping you build a business that works so you can take care of the people. And together, we all win. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to Beyond Hormones, the business of wellness. I hope that you're walking away with fresh ideas and real strategies you can use to grow your practice with profit and purpose. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow the show so you never miss a conversation. And if something you heard today resonated with you, do me a favor, share this episode with a friend or a colleague. It's one of the best ways you can support the show, and it might be exactly what they need to hear right now. If you want even more tools and support, go ahead and head over to acceleratedmedicalpractices.com. Until next time, keep doing the work that matters. Your patients need you, and I am cheering you along every step of the way.